Hi, my name is Leo Fortuna from PTPT at the ELX2A. My partner is John Mark Gutera from ELX2A. From week 1, I choose the concept of curriculum.
The question is, what is the difference between a syllabus and a curriculum in your school and school setting?
Syllabus. A syllabus is a document that outlines a specific topic, units, assignment, and assessment that will be covered in the course. It provides detailed information about the course objectives, learning outcomes, and grading criteria, schedule, and expectation. The syllabus is more specific and focuses on the individual course content and structure. It is typically created by the course instructor or teacher and given to student at the beginning of the course. And for curriculum refers to the overall educational plan or program designed by the school or educational institution. It includes all the courses, subjects, and activities that make up students' learning experience throughout their academic journey. And it is a developed education expert departments or school boards to ensure cohesive and comprehensive learning experiences for students.
Okay, the question 2 is, revisit the quadrant and consider and discuss with the colleges the balance of activities within the school and your own class.
In the school settings, routine tasks with high impact include administrative duties, student assessment, and school-wide initiative. It is important to ensure that these tasks are efficiently managed and contribute to the overall success of the school. Routine tasks with the strike to a balance between these tasks to deliver effectiveness and engaging lesson while monitoring student progress effectively. Growth and development activities in the school settings may include professional development opportunities, curriculum planning, implementing new teaching strategies, wasted time, and low impact. Activities classified in quadrant 3 are those that consume time but have minimal impact on student achievement and school improvement. These activities should be minimized or eliminated to prioritize more impact tasks.
For question 3, consider the implicit, informal, and hidden aspect of the curriculum and how you can plan for this in your teaching activities. Ask yourself, should I plan this in my teaching?
When considering the implicit, informal, and hidden aspect of the curriculum, it is important to recognize that these elements play a significant role in shaping students. Overall plans and learning objectives are formally documented, implicit, informal, and hidden aspects. Implicit curriculum. The implicit curriculum encompasses values, attitude, social norms, and beliefs that are transmitted to students through the learning environment. Informal curriculum refers to informal experiences and activities that occur outside or formal instruction but still contribute to students' learning. Hidden curriculum. Hidden curriculum consists of implicit message or values that are unintentionally conveyed through the organization, policies, and practice of the schools. This may include power dynamics, social hierarchies, and cultural norms that influence student perception and behavior.
For question number 4, discuss the model with the colleges, its application in your school and classroom.
First is team teaching. In the team teaching, both teachers are in the room at the same time but take turns teaching the whole class. Team teaching is sometimes called tag team teaching. You and your co-teacher are a bit like co-presenters for a conference of the Oscar. Parallel teaching. In parallel teaching, the team splits the class into 2 groups and each teacher teaches the same information at the same time. Parallel teaching work well to differentiate instruction and the content being taught, particularly challenging. Station setting and teaching. In station teaching, the class is divided into 3 or more groups in the classroom as multiple learning centers. Alternative teaching. One teacher instructs of the class, the other teacher teaches an alternate or modified version of the lesson to a smaller group of students.
For the week 2, the question is, what do you see as the key purpose of the curriculum, the needs of the child, or the need of the society?
For me, the key of purpose of the curriculum should ideally strike a balance between catering of the needs of the child and the needs of society. The curriculum should focus on meeting the individual learning needs and interests of each child to ensure their holistic development, including cognitive, emotional, social, and physical growth. At the same time, the curriculum should also align the broader needs of society of preparing students to become well-rounded and responsible citizens who can contribute positively to their communities and the world at large.
For the question, do we need a curriculum?
Yes, we do need a curriculum. Curriculum provides a structured framework for educational institutions to guide teaching and learning activities. It sets the scope and sequence of what students are expected to learn and achieve. A well-designed curriculum ensures that students receive a comprehensive education that encompasses essential knowledge, skills, and values.
For the question 3, in what ways might the UNESCO 4 pillars shape your curriculum planning?
The UNESCO 4 pillars of education are learning to know, learning to do, learning to be, and learning to live together. Learning to know, emphasizing a strong foundation of academic knowledge and skill of various areas. Learning to do, incorporating practical hands-on learning experience such as project-based learning, internship, and apprenticeship. Learning to be, promoting personal development and self-awareness, including social and emotional skills. Learning to live together, emphasizing multicultural education, diversity, inclusivity in the curriculum.
For question 4, who decides on the objectives and contents of the curriculum?
The objectives and content of the curriculum are typically decided by a combination of educational experts, curriculum developers, teachers, administrators, policy makers, and other stakeholders. Educational expert curriculum specialized subject matters expert and researcher contribute to expertise to design a curriculum that is aligned with educational standards and best practices. Curriculum developers are responsible by drafting the framework, structure, and sequence of the curriculum. Classroom teachers play a significant role in shaping a significant framework, structure, and sequence. Content selection, instructional strategies, and learning activities. For administrator, school and district administrator oversee the implementation of the curriculum and allocate resources to support curriculum delivery.
Okay. For week 3, first question, what does it mean for you to put students learning first?
Putting students first in the classroom means that they take top priority in your mind and you think about them as individual and whole people as you engage in classroom practice every day.
For question number 2, what do I already know about children and young people's likes and dislikes?
Children and young people likes and dislikes can vary greatly depending on their age, interests, and personalities. Here are some common trends of observation about children and young people likes and dislikes. Likes. Example, toys and games. Children often enjoy playing with toys, games, and engaging in imaginative play. Dislike. Vegetable and healthy foods. Children sometimes have a dislike for vegetable and healthy foods, preparing sweet or junk food. Bedtime. Many children with dislikes bedtime and resist going to sleep at night. Schoolwork. Some young people may have a dislike for schoolwork, homework, or study for exam. Chores. Children and young people may not enjoy doing chores and tasks but feel like work to them.
Or question number 3, what is the difference between learning and growth?
Learning refers to the acquisition of knowledge, skills, and understanding through study, experience, or being taught. It involves the process of gaining new information, acquiring new skills, or developing a deeper understanding of the subject or concept. Learning can occur through formal education, formal experiences, observation, practice, or self-directed study. Learning is a continuous and lifelong process that enables personal and professional development. And growth refers to the process of development or maturation, leading to positive change in an individual, physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual well-being. In growth, occur various aspects of an individual life such as emotional growth, intellectual growth, personal growth, or spiritual growth.
Or question number 4, what is the difference between active and passive learning?
For active learning, is a student-centered approach where learners engage directly in the learning process through activities, discussion, problem-solving, and hands-on experiences. Students are encouraged to ask questions, analyze information, solve problems, and apply knowledge in real-world context. Examples of active learning strategies include group discussion, case studies, role-playing, simulation, experiments, and projects. For passive learning is a teacher-centered approach where learners receive information or instruction without active engagement or participation. It includes receiving information through lecture, readings, videos, or demonstration without the opportunity for immediate application or interaction. Passive learning may result in lower engagement, limited retention of information, and superficial understanding of concept. Examples of passive learning methods include listening to lecture without videos, reading textbooks, and taking notes without active participation.
Good day, I am John Makimberial Gutera and I am PTPTN ALX 2A student. For week 4, lecture number 1, question number 1. How do you or might you build assessment integrally into the curriculum? I believe that assessment should be an integral part of the curriculum and it should not be an afterthought. As a teacher, I can build assessment into the curriculum. By incorporating it into the lesson plan, I can decide what I want my student to learn and how to assess their learning. It is important to make sure that the assessment is aligned with the learning objectives and that it measures what the student have learned. To make the assessment more student-centered, I can provide them with the various opportunities to demonstrate their learning. For instance, I can use formative assessments like quizzes, discussions, and peer evaluations to give feedback to students on their learning progress. I can also use summative assessments like tests, projects, and presentations to evaluate their learning outcomes. I can use the De Bono evaluation tool to evaluate my teaching by reflecting on what worked positively, what did not turn out well, and what was interesting in my teaching. I can create new ideas for change and improvement. This tool can help me to make sure that my teaching is effective and engaging for my students. Overall, building assessment integrally into the curriculum requires careful planning, alignment of assessment with the learning objectives, and regular reflection. By doing so, I can ensure that my students are learning and growing, and that I am providing them with the best possible education. For week 4, lecture number 2, question number 2. What criteria do I use when designing learning experiences for my students? When designing learning experiences for students, it is crucial to consider several key criteria. Firstly, the experiences should be purposeful, continuous, interactive, and integrating, as outlined by Wheeler. This means that the activities should have a clear objective, be ongoing, involve active participation, and connect to other learning experiences. Furthermore, the learning activities should be fun-filled and provide a variety of indoor and outdoor experiences to engage a student in different ways. They should also be valid, comprehensive, suitable, and relevant to the subject matter being taught. Additionally, the activities should provide opportunities for students to explore, experiment, investigate, and question, rather than just repeating and reciting information. In addition to these criteria, it is essential to make the learning experiences culturally and contextually appropriate for the student. This involves considering the diverse needs and backgrounds of the students and matching the activities to their experiences to maximize learning. When evaluating student learning experiences, it is important to use these criteria to assess the effectiveness and impact of the activities. Students should also be made aware of the encouraged to use these criteria themselves to reflect on their learning experiences. In conclusion, designing effective learning experiences for students require careful consideration of various criteria, including purposefulness, continuity, interactivity, integration, fun, variety, validity, comprehensiveness, suitability, relevance, and cultural and contextual appropriateness. And by incorporating these criteria into the designing process, educators can create meaningful and impactful learning experiences for their students. For week 4, lecture number 3, question number 3. How do I manage time and my classroom so that everyone is able to engage with lesson? Effective time management in the classroom is crucial to ensure that all students are able to engage with the lesson. Teachers must monitor engagement and change activities during class, while also adhering to the time plan for the lesson. It is also important to allow for flexibility and student interest. When it comes to managing time, teachers should consider different groupings in the classrooms, such as individual, pairs, and groups, encouraging more pair and share methods, and putting children in groups to work on different activities can keep them engaged and ensure that every child is participating. Furthermore, teachers should allow space for students to express themselves and welcome counter arguments to help them become more creative in their ideas. Teachers should also do formative and summative assessment to know how well the class went on, what kind of errors and student made, and how to overcome the difficulties the students faced. In conclusion, effective time management in the classroom involves monitoring engagement, changing activities, adhering to the lesson plan, allowing for flexibility and student interest, and assessing the progress of the students. By considering these factors, teachers can create a better learning experience for their students. For week 4, lecture number 4, question number 4. How might I use space and resources beyond the classroom? Using space and resources beyond the classroom can greatly enhance the learning experience for students. By utilizing outdoor areas such as schoolyards or local parks, teachers can create engaging and hands-on activities that promote exploration and discovery. Field trips and guest speakers can provide real-world experiences and connections to the curriculum. Technology can also be leveraged to connect students with resources and experts outside of the classroom. By thinking creatively and outside the box, teachers can provide a more dynamic and enriching learning environment. This can include taking students outdoors, utilizing natural environments, and incorporating interactive materials. By extending the classroom beyond its physical boundaries, teachers can create opportunities for students to apply their knowledge in real-world context and foster a deeper understanding of the subject matter. For week 5, lecture number 1, question number 1. What is my educational philosophy? Ma'am Sosela and Sir John Macbeth, according to them, educational philosophy serves the purpose of creating a better culture and humanity. It guides us in raising children and helps us develop a curriculum that aligns with the aims and purpose of education. When policymakers decide on a curriculum, there is often a philosophical background guiding their thinking, even if they may not explicitly recognize it. There is no specific philosophy that solely guides curriculum. It is more eclectic with overlaps and consideration of various needs. As teachers, it is important for us to understand and have a background understanding in philosophy. It becomes the basis for the curriculum we teach and can influence our teaching and learning process. I believe we should reflect on our own educational philosophy, considering what has influenced our thinking and whether it is changing in light of new learning. Discussing our philosophy with colleges can lead to meaningful discussions about the importance of philosophy in education. Understanding educational philosophy as emphasized by Ma'am Sosala and Sir John Macbeth allows us to recognize the implicit philosophical underpinnings in our teaching and to make them explicit. This awareness can help teachers to align their teaching with the philosophical basis of the curriculum, providing clarity and direction to their approach. Reflecting in our educational philosophy and engaging in discussions with colleges can lead to a deeper understanding of the impact of philosophy on education and encourage continuous development and improvement in our teaching practices. Week 5, lecture number 2, question number 2. Which of these philosophies resonates most with you? The philosophy that resonates the most with me out of the three major philosophies discussed, the progressivism, essentialism, and perennialism is the progressivism. So why did I choose the progressivism? Because progressivism focuses on producing autonomous individuals who can lead productive lives, emphasizing active and experimental learning. Individual experiences close to real life and social interaction. It values holistic development, creating autonomous individuals who are socially responsible and democratic in their views. Progressivism integrates well with the community, preparing children for the future by fostering independence and growth. While I lean towards progressivism, it is important to note that there are common strands among these three philosophies, and they can overlap in teaching strategies. Teachers can incorporate elements of essentialism, perennialism, and progressivism into their approaches, recognizing the value each philosophy brings to education. The integration of different philosophical ideas can enrich the teaching experience and cater to the diverse needs of its students. For week 5, lecture number 3, question number 3. Can you teach anything to any child in some intellectual, honest fashion? Jerome Bronner has had a significant influence on me as an educator. His theory is based on the idea that simple ideas can be extremely powerful, and he believes that it is possible to teach anything to any child in an intellectually honest fashion. One of the key aspects of Bronner's theory is the translation from symbolic to iconic and inactive forms of learning. By making big ideas inactive, children are able to understand and learn even complex concepts like theorems and equations. Bronner also emphasizes the importance of 4 key aspects in teaching and learning. The first aspect is predisposition, which involves considering a child's attitude, motivation, and existing thoughts and feelings. The second aspect is the structure of knowledge, understanding the inherent structure of the subject being taught. The third aspect is the sequence, which is a psychological rather than a logical notion. The sequence should follow the inactive, iconic, and symbolic modes of apprehending and grasping knowledge. Lastly, Bronner highlights the significance of meaning-making, where new concepts are introduced based on existing knowledge, and learning is an active process. Another important concept in Bronner theory is categorization. He emphasizes that learners should form their own categories to make their learning more meaningful and retrieval. This has implication for teaching, as it encourages teachers to allow students to devise their own categories and ways of storing and retrieving information. Bronner's theory also aligns with the idea of a spiral curriculum, where learners revisit and refine their understanding of key concepts. Over time, it is important to recognize that learners come to the classrooms with prior knowledge and experiences, and teachers should build upon and enhance that existing knowledge. By understanding Bronner's concepts, educators can expand on his ideas and have rich debates about how to teach anything to any child in an intellectually honest fashion. It also allows them to reflect on the most important ideas they take away from Bronner's theories. For week 5, lecture number 4, question number 4. What do you think of Freire's metaphor of banking as what the teacher does? I believe that Paulus Freire's metaphor of banking as what the teacher does is a very thought-provoking concept. According to the Freire, The teachers acts as a bank, depositing knowledge into the student and expecting it to be returned in the form of answer and test. This metaphor highlights the one-way nature of traditional education, where students are seen as passive receivers of knowledge. The assessment system is based on these concepts of banking, where the teacher retrieves the deposited knowledge from the student without any interest or value added. Very challenges teachers to reconsider this approach and encourages them to engage in dialogue and practice with their students. He emphasizes the importance of critical thinking and active participation, aiming to transform students into active participants in their own learning process. This shifts the focus from the teachers as the sole authority to a more collaborative and dialogic relationship where both teachers and students can learn from each other. Furthermore, Ferrier introduces the notion of conscientization, which involves raising consciousness and critical awareness among students. This concept encourages students to reflect on their own consciousness and take action to transform the realities they encounter. By integrating theory and practice, teachers can help students develop a deeper understanding of the world and empower them to take meaningful action. In summary, Ferrer's metaphor of banking challenges traditional educational practices and encourages a shift towards a more dialogic, participatory, and transformative approach to teaching and learning. His ideas have the potential to significantly impact the practice of teachers and the thinking of educators worldwide. For week 6, lecture number 1, question number 1. Is curriculum getting due recognition and investment of time and energy at your workplace? I believe it is crucial to recognize and invest time and energy in the curriculum at our workplace. As discussed in the lecture, the understanding and implementation of the curriculum by teachers significantly impact the learning process of students. The curriculum serves as tools of the trade for teachers, providing them with the necessary knowledge and skills to effectively run a class. Additionally, teachers need to possess pedagogical content, knowledge which combines content and pedagogy to create a rich learning experience for students. Understanding the student backgrounds, socioeconomic status, and cultural context further enhances teaching. Moreover, knowledge of the educational context, including the organization and management of the school, as well as the communities and cultures, shapes the classroom environment. Incorporating real-life examples, analogies, metaphors, and stories into the curriculum can help students connect with the subject matter on a deeper level. Therefore, it is essential to reflect on whether the curriculum is receiving the due recognition and investment of time and energy at our workplace, as its effective implementation is crucial for fostering quality education. For week 6, lecture number 2, question number 2. What for you is a learning community at your workplace? A learning community at my workplace is a collaborative and supportive environment where teachers come together to share knowledge, experiences, and best practices in order to improve their teaching skills and student outcomes. It is a space for joint planning, observation, evaluation, and constructive feedback on teaching practices. The community encourages critical reflection on teaching and learning, introduces small changes to enhance daily lessons, and provides more effective support for diverse student needs. By engaging in rich professional conversations, teachers in the learning community aim to improve the quality of class discussions and overall teaching effectiveness. The goal is to create a sustainable environment where continuous professional development is prioritized and supported. For week 6, lecture number 3, question number 3. Think about the 6 questions that we ask for the teacher's self-check. I believe that the 6 questions mentioned in the conversation are crucial for teachers to reflect on their curriculum and practice. The first question emphasizes the importance of the curriculum as a roadmap for teachers, allowing for some flexibility while ensuring the end goals are achieved. The second question addresses the engagement of all stakeholders, including students, in understanding the nature of the curriculum. The third question focuses on the changes teachers need to bring about in the classroom to realize the curriculum, highlighting the importance of utilizing diverse resources and ensuring clarity for both teachers and students. The fourth question delves into the engagement of everyone in their daily conversation about the curriculum, emphasizing the need for professional learning communities. We discussed and developed effective strategies for curriculum implementation. The fifth question revolves around the practical application of the curriculum in the classroom, with the indicator being active student engagement and participation. Lastly, the final question emphasizes the importance of teachers being familiar with the formal, informal, and hidden curricula to create meaningful and positive learning experiences for students. In conclusion, I believe that reflecting on this question and engaging in discussion with colleges and peers will help teachers bring the curriculum alive in the classrooms, creating meaningful experiences for all stakeholders.